All right.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jamie from Black Kraken Canine, and I'm here today with a guy who, if he is not the most interesting man in the world, then he's definitely my most interesting friend. And he's going to stay that way until one of you losers can tell me a story about jumping out of an airplane with a Malinois strapped to his chest. So I'm not going to get into his background too far. I'm going to let him do that himself. Want to throw it over. Rod Petrovic, great to have you.
Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Doing great. How are you?
Uh, Good, man. So I guess I'll introduce myself. Most people know that Army guys aren't good at talking about themselves, so I'll try. Rod Petrovic. I was in the military for about 14 years. I finished my career with Can Softcom, and I was a dog handler in our Tier 1 unit. I got a couple deployments to Afghanistan and Iraq. I became a police officer after that. I worked for GTA Police Service. I actually started training their dogs before I left the military, went there, worked the road for a bit, helped train their dogs, moved into the canine cell for a bit, was a trainer there, left. And when I retired last year, I really started pushing my dog training on the side, and I started Viking Canine. And really, we've been rolling along for a little while now. I was never really a pet guy, so I kind of focused on police. I started a tactical program in a GTA with canine integration. I've worked with, trainers from all over the world. I've been very fortunate that the mentality in CanSoft was smart people surround themselves with people that are smarter than they are, and that everyone knows something. So we trained with SAS, SBS, Aussie SAS, Kiwi SAS, Dev, Keg, all the big guys, and I learned something from a bit of everyone, and now I'm just trying to give that all back.
Cansoff. Can you break that down for those of us who
So it's
not
Canadian
familiar?
Special Operations Command. So I was with JTF2 and with the K9 program there and one of the Sabre squadrons.
So that's a better version of the Navy SEALs, am I right?
Obviously, yeah. We have wicked hair and nice beards. Those guys can swim really, really well. I found that out one time. Me and you talked about this before. Obviously, if some people are listening and they've heard about the Dallas Alexander saga that's going on right now, he was on another podcast, the Sean Ryan podcast, talking about the world's longest sniper shot, which is owned by a Canadian. And they actually censored him. They sent out a cease and desist letter to the Sean Ryan podcast and to Dallas himself saying that you're not allowed to talk about that stuff. So there is going to be stuff today that we're not allowed to talk about because I don't think neither of us want to get censored by CanSoft because they got lawyers and they're in the military, so they have nothing better to do than write letters. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, look, we'll do our best to not tread on any dangerous ground here. But anyway, we may as well just plow forward, and if they decide to write letters, well, we'll deal with that when it comes.
Yeah.
But we're gonna try to avoid it ahead of time.
Yeah.
Look, for anyone who may be interested, we may as well get this out of the way up front. Rod is going to be here at Black Kraken Canine September 15th, 16th, and 17th for a seminar that we're going to be doing with Nationals level IGP helper Brent Alvey. So it's two very unique skill sets in the bite work world. So, whether you have an experienced dog or a green dog, or you're looking to break in and just get a little bit of experience, it's going to be a lot to learn. So I'll be putting the link in the show notes at the end. So feel free to click there and sign yourself up if it's something that interests you. I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome, man.
So let's jump right in. Take us back to the beginning. JTF2 canine handler. It's a pretty unique path in life. How did you end up
Yeah.
there?
Well, it actually starts like a few years before. So I did my first tour in 2006, and I was in Afghanistan and Kandahar, and I saw explosive detection dogs working there. And just like everyone else, it's probably, oh, I've had dogs my whole life. I think I'm awesome, blah, blah, blah. I saw the dogs working, and I was like, fuck, that's what I want to do, man. Like, that looked pretty sweet. At the time, the Canadian Forces didn't have any dogs. So I got a dog and started training them. And, like you do in the beginning, you get on the YouTube videos and you get yourself some like Rubbermaid bins and you start training on whatever you got. So I trained a lab German Shepherd to search for drugs. And my plan at the time, because I was in my 20s, I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and be a contractor in Afghanistan or Iraq, because that's when the wars were going on. This was like in, yeah, well, 2006. So it was like at the heat of the war, highest point, everything's going on, lots of contracts out there. Trained up a dog the best I thought I could. And, hindsight being what it is, if I was doing now what I was still doing back then, I'd be looking at myself like I was an idiot, which isn't a bad thing. So I started working that. I was in the infantry my whole career with the 3rd Battalion. Um, During my time there, I switched over and was a close protection operator for a little bit. So I went down to Blackwater, saw their canine program down there. This was in like the Eric Prince days when he was rocking and rolling and had his own Air Force and like fucking basically Army. They had a pretty good canine program down there. Came back. Unfortunately, I wasn't successful at selection my first time around. Went back overseas, got injured, broke my back, and lost use of my right arm for about 2 years. Came back, and at about 2011, went to Kansoff. Went there after about a year. I went to Canine, and I started rocking and rolling there. And I'll tell you, I think it was definitely eye opening. And what became more eye opening after that was seeing kind of what the police were doing. And to be honest, at the time, 2013, 2012 time frame, um, I was shocked to see like not a lot of police services work together. And in like the special forces community, we're all about, you know, making everyone better. So every week, we'd have a shooting contest. And if you sucked, everyone knew you sucked, but they would try and make you better. And I would go to these police services and we would see that, oh, you could have a canine unit 15 minutes away and like, oh, do you guys train together? No, no, we don't. We don't talk to them. Like, it was insane to me. Like we would fly halfway around the world to train with other dudes just to see what they were doing. And we would get that inch better every time. And like, it's good to have that competition where you're pushing each other and pushing each other and pushing each other to get better and better and better. And yet these police services were still, training stuff from 30 years ago. They were putting a prong collar on a dog to get them to sit and like fucking choking the shit out of them. They were playing keep away. They were saying things that when you ask them as a person didn't make any sense. So if you're a stupid dog and you eat your own shit, do you think you're going to understand? Probably not. So it was kind of interesting to get into that. I did that for a couple of years. Like I said, I trained with a bunch of different police services, Brockville, and saw some really good progression in people that were understanding. We started to make a little kind of training cell where people were coming to us, and that's kind of a proud moment for me. When we would go to the Canadian Police Canine Association, it has training events every year, and we went to a couple of them. And the guys that trained me, Brad, Cliff, Hags, Murray, all those, master trainers that I think are guys that, are some of the best trainers in the world were saying that my dogs were doing really well. That's a big thing to me. And especially like you should compare yourself against your peers, other police services and so on. And whoever has the best dog wins. I think that when I was in, I saw an amazing dog from Germany and probably the best dog I ever seen. I was like, well, I want my dog to be better than that fucking guy. So the next year that guy came and my dog crushed him. And, that's the goal, is to be the best. Like, it's funny how we talk about, and I don't mean to like delve into this, whole social aspect of it, but in the world today, we have so many people that are telling us to not be the best and like just everyone's equal and everyone's a winner. Well, in the real world, everyone's not a winner and everyone's not the best, and not everyone can be a rocket surgeon. I'm definitely not. Like, I'm just a retired guy playing with dogs, trying to, I don't know, figure stuff out. And yeah,
So
here's
let's
my rant.
Let's take a quick step back. You've mentioned a few different types you mentioned police dogs. So
Yeah,
your regular patrol dog, I guess. You've got
yeah,
tactical dogs, which is what you guys
yeah,
would have been working with in
yeah,
special operations. Take a run-of-the-mill protection dog. So you got a
yeah.
protection dog, a patrol dog, and a tactical dog. What are the differences that we're seeing between those dogs from a temperament standpoint? Anything that you can think of. What are we seeing as far as delineation between those dogs?
That's a really good question, man. And the same thing I say every time: a tack dog or a special forces assault dog is just a really good general purpose dog that has really good environmentals. And what I mean by that is genetically these dogs are different, and you have to see that in some of them, because you'll take a dog that might be good on the street or okay on the street, and then you put him into a tactical scenario, and just genetically he doesn't have the nerves or the capability to operate at that level where we're pushing him into the gray. And dogs work best in black and white. I think we know that and we can agree on that. And we're starting to push them into the gray with the tack stuff, because they're doing free flow CQB where they can run past tactical members.
What is
And
free
after,
flow CQBD for those of us who don't
oh,
speak
sorry.
Canadian?
So it's free flowing where the dog's offline and away from the handler and can make his own decisions. And close quarter battle is CQB. So essentially room clearing. So if you're going to go and take a bad guy out of a house, I believe you should be sending the dog in first as a location tool. And there are different ways to do it. I've worked with, different ERT in Brockville. I've worked with TAC teams. I've worked with, soft guys. I've worked with regular police officers to implement this. The OPP has probably one of the best canine TAC programs in the country. Brad's there leading that. And I work with them usually every year. It's good to see what they're doing because they're very progressive with drones and dogs and all that kind of stuff. Um, the dogs that we're looking for within a tactical environment or a soft environment are ones that are super clear headed and that don't get overwhelmed when we start throwing more and more at them. And obviously, we train them to this level, but genetically, some dogs are only ever going to be, a 5 out of 10. And we're looking for those specific dogs that are a 10 out of 10. I will say that, probably the best dog I've ever seen to this date is still in Durham region. And we started on the TAC program with him and his handler, and he was doing amazing. And we did have two other dogs that were doing really, really well, and that can kind of flip that switch on. And what I mean is these dogs are making decisions based off of their own kind of thought process to bite or not to bite someone. So these dogs can understand through clear training, obviously, and making it clear that if the handler sends them, I'm going to run past, these guys dressed in gray with all the guns, and I'm going to run past them and I'm going to start searching. And then if I see someone who I can bite, I'm going to go bite them. And say my handler wants me to come back, there's different ways that the handler can call that dog off the bite from another room through TAC team members and even downstairs back to a handler who's on a different floor. And that takes a lot, because that's a lot of gray when we think about building horsepower in the beginning and kind of what we want a street dog to do. What I explain it is we make the dogs understand that I bite people in cities in the beginning, just to make it clear.
In cities,
When we
meaning in
go,
civilian
yeah,
clothing. You see someone in civilian
yeah,
clothing, they're a potential target.
exactly, yeah. Yeah, and that's in the beginning. We make it very clear that I can bite anyone that looks like this. When we get into like uh, discrimination later on, when we say, okay, you can't bite police officers, so we show the dog this picture of a police officer dressed up in his normal red stripe uniform, and then we show them a TAC guy dressed in gray, and we let them know that, hey, you can't bite these guys. That is pushing it into the gray. So when the dog has to quickly essentially make that decision of, do I bite this guy? No. All dogs don't have that. And so when we talk about what's a good protection dog, what's a good general purpose police dog, and what's a tactical slash assault dog, that's what we're kind of looking for. And like, there can be really good GP dogs that don't make the TAC program just because they're either too sharp. I've had dogs in there that have the grip, have the hunt, have all this kind of stuff, but they're too sharp to be, pressed up in a stack.
Define
An
what you mean by
example,
define what you mean by sharp.
So Sharp can be essentially Hawk. This dog that we were training, he's a little bit unpredictable. You know, good biting dog, good hunting dog, all that kind of stuff. We get next to him in the stack, and he just might bite you for no reason. Barry Senior at the hill. So we had this dog named Barry Senior, and he would just bite people for no reason. But was he a good assault dog at the time for what we were asking him to do? You know, blow a hole in the wall, send the dog in. Dog's going to go in and find and bite someone. That's what we needed him to do. And then hopefully when he ran back out, he didn't bite people. However, Barry would just be walking by a stack of guys and bite someone in the leg for no reason. That's a Sharp dog. So I've had it where, I'm next to a dog and we're just doing capping, watching the tack guys go in, and the dog bit me in the arm for no reason. I didn't do anything to it. I wasn't petting it. It just decided right then that I'm just going to bite you in the arm. And that's what I mean by Sharp. There's something in that dog's mind that's just like, it has that little bit of fuck you. And not to say that I don't like that. Like, I like asshole dogs. I think Jordan was a bit of an asshole dog. I got my dog Boots because he was a little bit of an asshole. I just like that little bit of asshole in them. However, does it work best in a close quarter tactical scenario? Not really. You need a clear-headed dog who's a little bit of an asshole.
So really, it sounds like you guys are looking for unicorns when you're selecting these dogs. I mean,
Oh
you
yeah,
basically you're looking for the Einstein of dogs that also has the genetics to want to fuck someone up. And
exactly.
those two things, for people who may not be, very integrated into this world, those two things don't often come together. That clear-headedness combined with that attitude it's a
Yeah.
unique pairing. So what do you guys do to actually find these dogs? What's the selection process look like?
So it's different in the military, obviously. When we
Yeah,
have
let's
people
talk
over,
special forces for now, or special operation forces for now.
so in the unit, the trainers and the handlers sometimes will go to Europe. So we go right to the source with some people, Old Man Reaver, Franco Angelini, guys that used to be Castle Canine, and we test these dogs. And so, the trainers and the guys will look at 200 dogs maybe. And of those 200, maybe they'll take 10. And of those 10, maybe one will pass. So when you start a course with 15 dogs, you're hoping to get one or two. And not to say that those dogs that fail wouldn't be good GP dogs. Again, they're only asking for the highest standard. The dogs that I worked recently in the most recent kind of integration when we tried to start the TAC program down in Durham, though that was just luck of the draw. They just happened to be really good dogs, and out of the 11 dogs, only 3 of them made it, and that's a high percentage. Like, that is rare, 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 to have
What kind of
that many
things are
make it.
you what kind of things are you doing in this testing process, that if you can talk about it?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. No, like, my testing process is easy. The first thing so all the dogs have to go through GP first. So, general policing stuff, tracking, grip work, blah, blah, blah. And then what we want to test is a few things. You can see it in the dogs as they're progressing. Are they nervy? Most dogs shouldn't have any issues by the time they come off their GP course. So surface issues, grip issues, stuff like that. And one of the first things I test, and we actually work it a little bit on the GP course, is the grip. And when I talk about grip, people talk about biting and grip, and they're interchangeable. I don't believe they are. I kind of break them down into two different things. So for biting, it's the dog's ability to bite wherever. And we're not teaching dogs to bite the throat. We're not teaching dogs to bite the face. We're not teaching dogs to bite the hands or anything like that. However, they need to be able to bite a lat. They need to be able to bite a tricep. They need to be able to bite a bicep or a forearm or a leg. And then we go into grip. And it's dogs that have never seen a picture of biting a leg or biting a tricep or biting the inside, that don't understand that sometimes that's all there is. A good friend of mine, Jeff Burns, we were out tracking one night and we had a guy that had his arms tucked in and he was all down, and the only thing that was available was his lat. And so, good on his dog, Riot, goes in, bites the guy in the side, and bites and holds. And that's where we get into the grip side. So, we have dogs that have engaged people apprehended them in the leg, rolled down a flight of stairs, and then took 12 punches to the head and never gave up. And that's the grip portion. Um, and where I'm going with that is, you know, the dogs that I train, I don't want them to come off. So just like in shooting, your first and final grip, they say, um, it's the same thing with dogs. Once you bite, you drive in, and then you drive in. And when we take them off, we should only have 4 puncture marks and a bit of redness and swelling. But that's what we need to have, because if we go hands on with a guy, so say a canine's engaged and we need to take that person down, wherever that dog is biting, he has to stay on, because there could be TAC members, there could be police officers coming in next that are going to jump on this guy and bring him to the ground and attempt to handcuff him. And I'm of the opinion with the dogs that I train that the dog should be able to, you know, be biting here, and I should be able to have my hand here and not worry that that dog's going to come off and redirect on me. And it's the same thing when we're taking a dog off. Is the dog clear-headed enough to understand, and does the handler have enough control to take that dog off with people still on this person, so that we don't have to re-engage in another fight, so that we can still have positive control? So the first thing I test is grip. Um, and grip being that that dog can stay on, and it stays on no matter what. If I smash him against a wall, if I put him upside down, if I put him in a desk or in a trash can, or throw him down the stairs or hang him up by his tail, the solution to that problem is going to be to drive in and hang on. Those dogs don't come off. And if a dog comes off consistently and it's not something that I can fix, then that dog's not in the TAC program. So that's the grip aspect of it. And then next, you have to see the dog's demeanor. And what I mean by demeanor is, when he sees people running, does that dog have the ability to stay down and quiet? And, you know, I believe that we should have a speak command. You tell the dog to speak, he barks if you're going to do a challenge, and then he shuts the fuck up. Because I can tell you from a tactical side, there's nothing worse than having a dog losing its fucking mind, whining, barking while you're trying to do an infill. And you know, when we talk about stealth to contact or something like that, you can go kinetic or loud, or you can start shooting or throwing 9-bangers, and then you can go back to stealth to contact, because the fact is you should be moving, so you shouldn't be in the same spot, so you can stealth it. Whether you choose to or not is, you know, up to the tactical situation will dictate. So these dogs have to be able to stay down and quiet while gunshots are going off, stay down and quiet while 9-bangers are going off or distraction devices, stay down and quiet while TAC guys are running. And then after that, you know, we're going to start training where the dog can now go out ahead of the guys and be directed by tactical members. You can get into really, really advanced stuff, you know, directing the dog with lasers, directing the dog with hand signals. You know, you can do multiple entries from either end of the building and send the dog in and not worry that he's going to engage a friendly person. So it becomes a lot of training. It takes a lot of time and effort from the handlers and the trainers and the TAC guys and everyone involved, and to get the dogs up to these high levels.
So let's talk about that training a little bit. You mentioned before some of the police departments that you've worked with were still using the old school yank and crank techniques, which nobody,
still to this day, still doing it right now.
I certainly believe that. And the thing is that nobody in the, you know, balance training or whatever you want to call it world really trains that way anymore. We've all moved on and know that that's highly inefficient. Yeah. I don't know if you saw our last video at all, but we talked about it in the video, and you may or may not know this, but did you know that there's a brand new scientific consensus in dog training right now, according to people on the pure positive side, that that positive punishment is never necessary in dog training? So given that, you know, you come from special operations, and special operations is, I'm assuming, always up on the most cutting edge way to train. I'm assuming these unicorn dogs that have the ability to fuck someone up while writing a master's thesis are also trained through nothing but treats and love. Am I right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, like 100%. Like, you get operational reliability through treats, that's for sure, and hot dogs and like cakes and steaks. Like that's the best way to get it. Well, in the fallacy of you know, pure positive training and bark and hold training, the that just doesn't happen. You don't get operational reliability because they only do it as long as they want to. And so when we think about a dog being a sentient being, the fact is sometimes they don't want to do shit. And while we do pick dogs for, high drive and hunt drive and all this other stuff, our selection criteria, these pure positive trainers have it in their mind that, oh, he loves me, so he's going to listen to me. And that's not true. So I gave up my dog when I left to Josh. And guess what? The next time Jordan saw me, he was in love with Josh. So what does that tell you? So the dog doesn't really want to listen to me anymore, even though I had him since he was 10 months old until he was like, whatever, 5 or 6.
Jordan is the
And
dog that you were deployed with, just so that everyone knows who we're
yeah,
talking about. Jordan is the dog that you were
yeah,
deployed with. Josh is someone who I
yeah,
guess I know Josh, but he was in your unit. Is
yeah,
that right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the fact is, unless you can, in my opinion, I compulse things. So I do use compulsion training, not in everything, but in certain aspects, and it's to get operational reliability. And when we talk about operational reliability, it has to be repeatable. So all these people that are like, oh, my dog will come back for a treat, and 100%, when I start, we don't use any corrections. If a police course is 3 months long, you'll only start using corrections in the last month of the course. So you'll go 2 months, and I say horsepower before brakes. I stole that from Brad, but I'm going to say it's mine. Um, and if at that point, if we added too many corrections, yeah, you might, cause something. Sometimes you do have to correct. However, you need positive punishment for that dog to understand that, you can't do that. The fact is, no, you're not allowed to bite whoever you want. And so if you were to put a purely positive trainer into a police dog scenario and that dog is biting someone, do you think that dog's going to come off for a treat? I'll tell you right now, I train my dog so that I can hit them with toys and I can pour food over top of their head, and that dog's not going to come off. And if he does come off, things are going to go really poorly for him because, again, we talk about grip and liability is huge. If you don't have good grip, you're going to get bite marks all over. And, one of the things we're going to talk about at the seminar is kind of canine use of force. And I'll talk to my part that I can speak to. And we have a Crown attorney coming in that's going to talk to her part and the legality of it. But you cannot get operational reliability through purely positive, because when we think about different drives, if you have a high hunt drive dog or a high prey drive dog, and that dog's full of treats because, we treat our pets like we want them, unless they're fat, they're not happy. And that's not true at all either. If that dog's full of treats, what's to stop him from going and chasing that rabbit or chasing that kid or, anything else that he really wants, another dog into the street? And you have no way to stop that. Like, come back, get your treat here. If I'm a millionaire and you offer me $1, I don't know, I'll probably wipe my ass with it, to be honest. And that's the same way we have to think about it with this purely positive stuff. It's just not operationally reliable, and it may be in certain instances. Okay, so when I take this specific one, and it's just like testing dogs in Europe, and you sell dogs, and you can, you might not do the dog and pony show, but the fact is, when you test dogs, you see this dog and pony show, and they do it with the same decoy and the same field and the same routine all the time. And so when you see it, these dogs are perfect. And then you take them out of their environment or change the decoy or change the routine, and the dog's like, whoa, I've never seen this before. And when we talk about purely positive, yeah, so if I train in my house, in my little training area here, the dog's great. And yeah, I want treats and I want treats and I want treats. And the other thing is, I just posted about this the other day, is I say no dessert. And Justin Rigney was talking about it. And it was great that he reinforced it, because I tell people when they come and train me, don't feed your dog for 2 days. I've seen a dog go 14 days without eating. It's not that food wasn't available, it's that he chose not to eat during that specific training iteration. Eventually he did, obviously. But we get these people that are like, okay, yeah, my dog can do it purely positive. I was like, okay, well, come out to this field and let's do it, and then I'll bring out another dog. And then they can't do anything. I'm like, well, recall your dog. And Fido, come here, come on, Susie. And they're waving a treat or they're waving a toy, and that dog's jumping around my dog that's just lying on the ground doing nothing. And when you look at the difference, it's because my dog is like, you know what? If I do dumb shit, or everyone realizes now with if I fuck around, I'm going to find out, and that is relative to dog training and life. And if the dog doesn't understand that if I do stupid shit, bad things are going to happen, um, what's to stop them from doing anything? Like, it's just like kids. If we never punished our kids, I don't have kids, I don't particularly like them, but if they did dumb shit and we're just like, that's okay, here's an ice cream cone, what are they going to do the next time? Like, why do we punish? And it's to decrease the likelihood of that behavior happening. And I think that's a great way to put it to most people is, if you don't want this behavior, you can punish it through positive punishment or negative punishment, all this kind of stuff.
You guys are pretty open about the fact that the dogs you operate with are tools. I think that, you've said a few things throughout this conversation that will make some people clench up a little bit. I think you guys speak about dogs in a way that the pet world is just not used to. That being said, I'm willing to bet that your feelings for Jordan, the dog that you were deployed with, were different than the feelings that you had for your radio or your multi-tool.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
Remember, everyone loves these dogs. Sorry, go ahead.
But talk to me a little bit about that balance and about what it was like to take this dog who is a tool for you in your operations, but to take that dog and to send it into situations that you knew there was a good chance the dog wasn't going to be able to make it out of.
Yeah. So, what's more important, my life or my friends' lives or the dog's life? And you know what? Dogs are great. We like them. They're like part of the family. However, they are a tool and they are replaceable. And that sounds really, really harsh. Um, a good example, to be honest, happened in Ontario a few years ago. Unfortunately, a family was killed, and the TAC members went to go in to get this guy that had just murdered 4 people. And the number one in the door is like, so my call sign used to be Eeyore, and how I got that was we're going through course and they asked me a question. They said, what's the problem with being the number one in the door? And I'm like, the number one always gets fucking shot. So do you want to be that number one in the door, especially in certain scenarios, policing specifically, where they know you're fucking coming? Like, you've been outside negotiating for 3 hours at this point or whatever, and now the TAC teams decide they had to make entry. It's a little bit easier and soft, like special operations stuff, because you have the element of surprise, you have overwhelming force, you have all these advantages normally. But the fact is, if I'm going to breach a door, and hopefully we're not going through a door, hopefully we're going blowing a hole in a wall or something like that. However, you know, you can die really easy. And I'd rather put that dog out in front of me and he be a live fighting distraction or a location tool so that I know I can shoot them. And that's a fact of life is, self-preservation. And we use dogs to mitigate human life. And, again, we'll probably talk about this. However, I believe that when we talk about it in a policing context, because that's a little bit more what I'm into now, when we use a dog as a location tool and a measure of standoff, we're actually decreasing the level of use of force because we're not forcing that lethal engagement. So, there's this big outcry to defund the police and that police are murderers now and blah, blah, blah. And I've seen it through, real calls and operations and stuff like that. People are less likely to shoot a dog. In Ontario 2 years ago, the OPP sent a dog in, guy had a knife, and dog engages the guy, and the guy doesn't want to stab the dog and throws the knife at the TAC guys coming in, and one of the guy takes it in the hand. So instead of stabbing the dog that's biting him, he decided to try and kill that person. So if I can put a dog out that they're less likely to shoot, and if they do, if they can shoot the dog, I can probably shoot them. It's not politically correct, but that's life. And these dogs are tools, and as much as they're our friends, I want to come home and I want my friends to come home. And if I can replace a dog, I can replace a dog within 3 months. To replace a human takes a long time, and not only does it destroy family and friends and other members of the unit, like it's really hard to justify sacrificing a human life over a dog's life. And that, again, I understand that there's probably going to be people like, that's horrible. You can't put these dogs in this situation. Okay, well, it's either that or we put a person in there and we force this lethal engagement. And either I get, shot or injured, or they get shot or injured. And what would you rather have? Because unfortunately, there's always going to be bad people in this world. There's going to be people that want to take advantage of other people. And that's why there's certain people out there that hunt those bad people. Like, it's a true story.
Can you tell us about a particularly challenging or unique mission where having your canine on hand helped you to either gain the upper hand or to maybe turn the tide back in your favor?
Um, I think I'm going to speak specifically about Iraq. So, well, both Iraq and Afghanistan, kind of dogs started, they've been around for generations since World War One. The Egyptians used dogs and guard dogs and blah, blah, blah. But in this specific context, when we talk about dual purpose dogs, one thing that kind of brought it more so to the limelight in special operations was what was happening in Iraq and Afghanistan. And what they kind of realized, with the insurgents later on is if they put IEDs in walls and booby traps and stuff like that, um, they would wait for where guys would stack up and then, or like, go to make entry. And then they put IEDs in the walls there on the ground there before the entry point. And then as the guys would come, they'd blow them up. A U.S. Special Forces team went in to do a hit on a building, and all their intelligence said it was going to be a soft target, not too many fighters on the inside, blah blah blah, and it did not go well for them. That's why we have in uh, we have capabilities to send people anywhere at any time, within a matter of hours. So that's when it really kind of clicked in. And, this was early 2010s, when this stuff was going down, and why dogs were so much more needed in there. And when you look at how many dogs have been killed in combat and killed in policing, it's relatively low in Canada. We have Quanto's law because of that dog that was stabbed to death. But it doesn't happen as much here. However, a dog is a force multiplier, whether it be in combat or whether it be in policing. Um,
What makes a
a lot
dog?
of people,
We hear snipers spoken of as force multipliers, for instance. What,
yeah.
what would make a dog a force multiplier?
So when you see a dog come out, most people have this innate ability, even people that work around dogs a lot, like police officers that see police dogs, military members that see the assault dogs all the time, and they're like, that dog looks pretty serious. So the force multiplier is, what do we get out of that asset? And does it do more than one thing? So, like, yeah, our dogs are all dual purpose. They'll search for explosives and they'll search for people. And he's also a live fighting distraction. So when I send a dog in, and we maybe have a guy aimed in on a door, and all of a sudden this thing runs in and he goes like that to look at the dog, and whether he shoots him or not, hopefully the next thing that's coming in is a distraction device or a round that's going to go into that guy's head. But they bring so much more to the table, where a person is there just to do certain things. You know what I mean? Like, we have certain people that all they do is disarm bombs. We have certain people that, are snipers, and yet they can engage from long distances. Dogs can, locate people firstly. They can locate explosives. They can engage targets, so on and so forth. What I used to bring up is, in policing, what specifically do we have that actually goes out and apprehends people? So, yeah, like TAC has throw balls, they have pole cameras, they have snakes and all this other kind of stuff and robots. But what actually goes and takes hold of a person and can, essentially get compliance out of them? And that's a person, a police officer, a military member, and a dog. Um, and the fact is, people are more likely to want to kill a person than to kill a dog. When we look at historically in Canada, how many people have been killed by police dogs?
Any?
None that I could find. And in the States in the last like 25 years, I think 5 people in 25 years have been killed by police dogs. And 2 of those were actually in hospital where they were just kind of misdiagnosed and something went wrong. Um, More people have been killed by tasers. So when we talk about what we use a dog for, the first is a location tool and then an apprehension tool in policing. And it's the same thing in the military. We're using the dogs as, normally a location tool because they're going in with a camera on their back and they're going in to tell us what's ahead of us. And we only let them go as far as we can support them. So, whether it be in a building or on a route clearance or whatever it be, and they're looking for people and explosives. So it's the dogs have a lot of uses that help us in the big picture.
What drove you to want to join special operations? You've talked about a whole bunch of these, crazy things that you've done overseas and so on.
Yeah.
You put yourself into some pretty interesting situations. Did you have a desire to just do some super cool shit, or were you pursuing
I
some kind
think
of a higher ideal?
I think that to be honest, I just wanted to be the best. I think that there's certain people out there with certain personalities that all they want to do is be the best and get better and get better. And you see that. Like I don't think by far I'm the best at anything now, and it's humbling, but you can get better every single day. Um, when you work around people, and I'm sure everyone sees it, you get that guy that is just slacking off and doing nothing. When you go into the soft environment, I don't think there's like the guy that's slacking off and doing nothing is still 100 times better than the civvy that's slacking off and doing nothing. And these guys and girls that are there, all they want is to make you better. So if you're a better pistol shot than me, you're going to be like, hey Rod, let's go and like shoot some pistol. If I'm a better carbine shot than you, I'm going to say, hey Jamie, let's go and shoot some carbine. If there's an issue with my dog and you see it, be like, hey, maybe you can try this. And one of the best squadron commanders I've ever seen, Davy J, once said that all of us are smarter than any one of us, and they have a way of operating there that is just it's amazing. When you read guys like Jocko's book, I don't know if you've read Extreme Ownership. It makes a lot of sense, and like not enough people do that these days. And even in policing, you'll see, in every profession there's going to be the slackers and there's going to be the good guys, but you see it more so now, and I understand why some people are so beat down in policing. However, if you want to be the best, you go where the best is. Special operations is like being in the Olympics, in my opinion. You get treated like a first class athlete. You get everything that you need to enable you to do your job, and that's kind of where you want to be. No one should ever say no if you can explain it and make sense. We should at least try it. And that's a great way to be. So you can screw up. Let me tell you, like I've screwed up tons and tons and tons of stuff. I probably screwed up this morning. If you ask us, I probably screw up every single day. But we fail forward because if you're not pushing forward and making mistakes, you're never going to get anywhere. We can't rest on what we were doing 30 years ago, kind of like what some police canine units are doing. We have to keep getting better. And even if that means you try something new and it doesn't work, but you've learned a little bit, one way to not do something, or you've adjusted how you were training before. Being the best is progressive and it's rented, it's never owned, and rent is due every single day. Like the fact is, if you want to be the best, there's a reason why they're the best. They get really good at the basics and they do it all the time. There's no slacking off there. Like you won't see, and the 3rd Battalion, what do? You sit on the stairs and mop the floor. And then you go to Dwyer Hill. There is no sitting on the stairs and mopping the floor. There is always something that you can be doing, and they will enable you to be able to do that. If you want to go to the range 7 days a week, there's ranges, there's ammo, there's whatever you need to be the best. If, one time I was doing, I was making weird anchors and rappelling with dogs and doing all this kind of stuff. And I said, you know what? I need to go to some weird place. It was Wesleyville, and it was a decommissioned power plant. But I was like, you know what? That would be really good for me to make weird stuff and rappel with dogs in weird areas because, that's what we might have. And here we have all these great anchors. That's great. But I learned to rappel off an interior door handle with 3 guys out of a 2nd-story window. And that's the kind of stuff you need to be able to do because you need to maintain mobility and flexibility for your leadership to say that I can do anything. When we were going into the jungle, I remember they asked me like, okay, Rod, so essentially everything kills us. How are we going to operate with the dog? And I'm just like, we're going to do it, and that's it. There is no saying no, I can't do that. There's finding a way, and that's it. There is no no. There is only going through it, and it might suck, but we are going to do it. Um, and I love that mindset. I love when people want to be the best, and I'm very fortunate that I can be a little bit picky about who I train with, because I don't want to train people that are just like, yeah, I don't know, I just kind of want to do this. I don't really care if it works or not. No, like you should care. Like you shouldn't want to suck. And for those of you that know me, I tell people when they suck, and I think you need to know when you suck, because how do you know to get it? If everyone blew smoke up my ass and was like, Rod, you're the best, you're the best, you don't need to get any better. No, like I suck at things. I suck at things all the time. We
There's
had
a
a
flip
detective.
side. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
this is actually leading into my next question. So I want to go there right now because there's a flip side to this that I think is really interesting, and I think you talked about making people better and how that's what was a big focus on what you guys did in the military. And I want to talk a little bit about the dog training industry as a whole, because I don't know if you know this or not, but the culture isn't really so much about making people better for the most part. I had the benefit of coming into the industry as a second career. I was in my mid 30s. Um, so I didn't really give a shit what people thought. But the one thing that you really notice coming in with fresh eyes in this industry is that there is this pervasive crabs in a bucket, your success is my failure attitude. And it struck me, in thinking about it, that if you're a young person trying to break into this industry, that's a lot to deal with. You come into it in your mid 30s, you've had a successful career previously, you have a certain, ability to tell other people to just go fuck themselves and you're going to go and do your own thing. Right.
Yeah.
Um, one of the things I noticed about you right away, and I noticed this before I even met you. We met originally at a seminar a few years ago. And I noticed you talking to some young green dog trainers, and you were treating them with respect, and you were giving them knowledge, and you were encouraging them to take your knowledge and sell it as their own, which God forbid in this space to do that. Um, it seemed to me like your attitude is more, get out there and do the damn thing versus you're never going to make it. It's so hard. You have so much more to learn. Whatever other,
Yeah.
soul destroying thing someone wants to tell a young person. So I wonder, is that just your personality in general, or do you think your military background has played into how you approach the pet dog training industry, your training of dog trainers?
100%, man. Like, again, I was very, very fortunate. I had some of the best trainers in the world train me. Well, not for free, but for relatively free. When we talk about Brad and Cliff and Steve and Murray and Tags and all these other dudes uh, that just came in and gave me all their knowledge for free. Cliff wrote a book on tracking, like literally the book for tracking, and put it out for free. Brad's written books and put it out for free. All these guys, if I call them and like, let's not kid ourselves, do I still have issues with dogs that I'm like, fucking haven't seen that one before? I can call those guys at any time and they'll give me advice. And I think that's how the community should be. And the fact is, new people coming in, I wish, everyone would be as helpful. And I get that, I'm very fortunate to say that. Do I need it? I think Joe Rogan put it best. I got fuck you money. I don't need to do this. I want to do this, and that's the best way to get it. When I talk about dog training, we say we get the dogs to want to do it first, and they have to understand that they have to do it. If you come to me and you're like, "Hey, man, I'm having this issue. I want to get better." If you want to get better, I'm going to help you get better. Whether it's a financial gain for me or not, I don't really care. I just want people, good people, because there are cocksuckers out there, to be honest. Um, I want good people to be the best they can. And especially when we talk about in policing and military, that's people's lives, not only their own, but, the people around them and the civilian population. And if we can make people better overall, we should do it. And I think that we should all share our experiences for free because, you know, you have different experiences than I do. You have different training methodologies. And I don't take anyone's experience for granted, whether the newest person or the, you know, the person with most time on there. Every time I train people, we'll look at the scenario and I want everyone to stand there and watch, to be honest. And whether you fucking like it or not, um, you should be judged by other people because then, you know, maybe that person has something to say. And again, they have different experience. And I see trainers now that even people that I've worked with that will, you know, take a new handler away from more experienced handlers and not even get their point of view from what they saw in the training. And I think that's insane. Like, but that is the culture, especially in policing and even in the pet industry, is to no, it's mine. I know everything and I'm going to keep it in my small circle. But if you do that, then you never get questioned because you don't allow anyone to question it. Whereas I think that we should, you know, you should be able to say, you know, why are you doing that? And I encourage people to ask why. And not enough people do that. You know, when I ask them, why do you do that? Because that's how we've always done it. Or why are we doing this? Because I said so. That's insane. Like, to me, that's nuts. You should be able to explain it and it should make sense. And if you can't explain it, then you shouldn't be doing it. However, we get a lot of people that because of their, you know, maybe I don't want to say lack of knowledge, but maybe lack of experience dealing with other people and their lack of openness to accept new ideas makes them into these kind of trainers that are like, no, we can't go outside for training. No, we don't listen to them. Don't listen to a podcast. Don't do this stuff. And like, don't get me wrong, there's some stupid fucking podcasts out there, and there's some stupid YouTube videos, and I'm sure I'm probably in fucking some of them. But the culture is to keep it in itself. And you know, some people do this for a living and they need to make money. However, if you want to be the best, you should be open to whatever anyone's saying. And I say it all the time. You know, if you look at my patent pended tracking pipe, um, you know, I put a sticker on that, and all the stuff that I've learned for the most part I've stolen from other people. Like, I've probably stolen 80% of the shit I know from Brad, to be honest. And I take stuff from everyone else. Like, I learned from the newest handler and the oldest handler. When I was doing stuff, we would have, you know, people from the police service come out and watch, and we would do the scenario. We'd go out. I'd ask everyone, okay, what'd you see? What'd you see? What'd you see? And that would include the person that has no experience at all. Tell me what you saw, because maybe they saw something I didn't. What the fuck do I know? Like, there are people with other experiences out there, and people aren't willing to take that into account, especially in the dog training world. And they're so stuck in their ways, and like, just to not progress at all drives me nuts. And I think that if someone's willing to come up to you and ask you, hey, can you help me out with this? I want to be better. Fuck, man, I'll give you everything I got. I just think it's the way to be. Everyone did it for me. Like Brad and Cliff and Steve and Hags, they all gave me everything they knew for free, essentially. And they just wanted me to be better. And when we look at, so Cliff trained Brad, and, you know, Cliff admits it, Brad surpassed Cliff because Brad goes out and he fucking learns everything, and he takes in everyone's knowledge and skills and ability and makes himself better every single time. And I just think if more people would be like that, not just in dog training, but in general, everyone would be better off.
Coming down to the end here, I want to just touch on one last thing that we spoke a little bit earlier in the week. You mentioned that on Tuesday you were going to be spending the day at a pain clinic. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit messed up. I kind of medically had to get out. I hurt my back in 2006, and then I kind of broke my neck in 2010, and I lost use of my arm for about 2 years. I kept going. I tried some experimental injections that at the time, you know, when you're in your 20s and you want to be the best, and they're like, hey, this will keep you going for a little bit longer. Um, I did those things to keep me going. And now, you know, you kind of don't realize the repercussions later on when you keep going. So I have nerve damage all down my back. I only have about half the use of my right arm, and I'm in
This is
pain all
from
the time.
injuries
So I go,
suffered. This is from injuries suffered on deployment.
yeah. I actually was doing my advanced parachuting course and lost the use of my left arm, and it just stopped working. It was funny because we're practicing all these exits, and I could put my right arm up, but my shoulder wouldn't move anywhere. So the guy would come up and like lift my
Oh,
arm,
I
and then it would
bet it was
fall down.
hilarious. That sounds so.
Yeah, I know, it's awesome. Um, and I was like, no, that's, and it's funny because most people think I'm ridiculous. They're like, well, why would you keep going if your arm doesn't work? I'm like, well, once you jump out and the wind takes you, then it'll hold it up and I can kind of steer while I'm free falling. It was the only problem is I couldn't reach the toggle. So, and in my mind, that's just like, that's life and fucked up shit happens. So you can either stop and let it, destroy you, or you can keep going. My whole job essentially now is to go to these medical appointments, and I've been doing it for years. So I've been going to a pain clinic. I was going every week for the first probably year and a half, and getting 34 injections all down my spine and into my shoulder and in all my nerves. So I was getting nerve blocks and then trigger point injections. Um, you know, how can I operate still at the highest level? And that's what I have to ask myself. Is that what I have to do now? Yeah. So, I go to physio every week. I go to chiro every week. I go to massage every other week. Every 3 weeks, I go and get this pain, like 3.5 hours each way to go and get these injections. I've tried I would try voodoo if it would work. So, but again, that has to be your mindset when how do you want to be better? I can sit on the couch and drink Jack Daniels all day and be 300 pounds and like probably be depressed as shit. And it happens a lot in the military, especially when guys get hurt. When you look at guys that, lost both their legs, um, that dramatically changed your life. I've lost the use of both my arms. So I've lost use of this arm twice and I've lost use of this arm once, and not just for like minutes, for like days and months and years. You can give up anytime you want. You can ring the bell anytime you want. However, it's just not in me to do that. And there's the right thing, the wrong thing, and nothing. And I believe that in dog training. I believe that in life. And you have to do something. So me going to the pain clinic keeps me going so that I can do some of the stuff that I want to do and still love. And, I don't mind doing it. And to be honest, I don't think I would trade it for anything. Even with all the pain, I got a Tempur-Pedic mattress. I'm like the old man when you see me walking up the stairs. Sometimes I fall over because my knees give out. However, I'm really, really lucky. Like I look back at my short life, I accomplished what I want to do. I wanted to be a special forces dog handler, and how many people can say that they've had their dream job? I consider myself lucky in some aspects. Yeah, like sometimes not so much, but I've met some awesome people. I've got to experience life. I've got to travel. I've got to do everything because of that. And injuries happen, man. Like if you can only be awesome for so long. When we look at Muhammad Ali, George St. Pierre, Wayne Gretzky, um, no one's the best forever. And I was very fortunate that I got to perform at a very high level in my dream job. And as a result, you hurt yourself. Like I got 8 concussions. I've been hospitalized a lot, but I got to do some really awesome stuff that I wanted to do. And there's not a lot of people out there that can dictate their lives and actually reach the pinnacle of what they ever wanted to do. Um, you know, with you left banking and went into, the canine field is what you wanted to do. And now you've got an awesome kennel. You've got a great company. You're coming out with this stuff. You're producing great dogs. Like you should be really proud of that and, know that you're performing at a very high level. And that's what we should all want to do. And we should all want to be the best. And sometimes being the best comes with like shitty things. Like you got to be on this thing with me and like listen to me swear and tell dick jokes most of the time. And like, you were at my decoy conference and with grassroots, and I don't know, you probably heard me tell so many dick jokes and inappropriate things that you probably never want to talk to me again. But here we are.
That's why
So
we're here, man.
yeah.
And before we wrap, is there anything that I haven't asked you about that you want to talk about?
Oh man, I just ramble on. Gus will probably watch this later and be like, "Why don't you ever shut the fuck up?" But
Gus
that's
is
just me.
your wife, girlfriend,
Yeah, yeah,
what
yeah.
everybody says.
That's her nickname. She's Grumpy Gus. So yeah, no, I think this seminar that we're doing is going to be awesome. There's going to be a couple more seminars coming out this year and some more training. I think it'll be a good time for everyone to come out. I really am happy that we decided to talk about the use of force thing because I think it really conceptualizes and brings everything together It's something I wanted to actually do for a long time to specifically sport people and protection dogs so that they understand liability because I'm all about that when I train people. And I do understand that this dog can be considered a weapon and you can cause grievous bodily harm, specifically if you have a poorly trained dog. So I think it's going to be good to round out some people's knowledge. And not only will we work on the grip work and the bite work stuff, but now they're going to understand, you know, the totality of a situation if your dog does engage someone. So I think it'll be really good. I don't think it's ever been done before, to be honest, specifically in Ontario or anywhere else outside of policing where we've had lawyers come in and talk about it. And I think that that's good knowledge for everyone to have. And the more knowledge you can have, the better you're going to be.
I'm really looking forward to that. I think it should be great.
And
Hey, look,
also, I challenge these purely positive trainers to come out and do some of this stuff because if they can do it, then I'll eat my hat. I don't know. Like, we're just trying to make canine great again. And like, if they can come out and show me something that I've never seen and it works awesome, then let's do it. Like, come on out and show me things that I'm more than open. And I have Viking canine stickers. If it's better, I'll steal it and I'll put a Viking canine sticker on it and it'll be mine.
I hope someone takes us up on that. I really do, because in all honesty, like I want to do things the best way possible. And so if there's a better way to do it, I want to know.
100%.
Um, Look, at the risk of making you feel super uncomfortable, I want to say thank you for everything that you've done for the country. I know, and I'm really grateful that there's people like you and your teammates out there who can do that stuff that the rest of us aren't built for. So I'm a banker, not a fighter. Dog training now, but look, thank you, and can't wait to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks, man. Really appreciate it.
That's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Take care.